Hi, this is Robert. I'm here with Beau Smith. Hey, Beau, how you doing?
What do you say, Bobby? Good to see
Hey,
you.
doing good, buddy.
I
We're
appreciate
here.
you letting me, come into your home, as they say. So
Yes,
this is great.
yeah, we're here to discuss Wynonna Earp, and you are being featured in a sketch magazine that's currently in Kickstarter. So we're going to do a few questions here, and this is like part one of the chat. So first question. First, let's get this out of the way. I've known Beau for
Over 30 years.
I was going to say 30 years plus.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I guess my oldest son wasn't even born yet when I knew you. So, yeah, I've known you for a long time. So, if we get drifting off somewhere, hang in there with us because we've known each other for a while. But question number one is how did you come up with Wynonna Earp and what was the inspirations for her?
Um, I tell you, Bobby, it's easy to remember because it's been with me for so long. In elementary school back in the 60s, like every boy in the 60s, I was consumed with cowboys and monsters and the army men, the whole thing. And a lot of times in class, instead of doing my math work or my biology or anything like that in elementary, um, on the corner of my notebook, I would write stories about Wyatt Earp and his brothers. They always mesmerized me in the fact because I have my two brothers, so the three of us, and
Huh?
always imagined us as the Earp brothers and fighting bad
Right.
guys. But at the same time, I was also intrigued with the universal monsters: Frankenstein,
Okay.
Wolfman, Dracula, Creature from
Right.
the Black Lagoon, King Kong, things like that. And so I would write stories about the Earp brothers fighting monsters.
Okay.
And I wrote stories. They were terrible, but for a sixth grader, they were a lot of fun.
Right.
So that always stuck with me. And even not that I was doing so much of that in high school or college or anything, but just the thoughts were always with me. And as far as inspiration, that is easily nailed down to two women in my life. And not to sound corny or anything, but my mother, who was one of the most independent women ever. I mean, my dad was, 6'1", 250, a bruiser, a brawler, this, that, and the other. But my mom ran the show. I mean, it was one of those Godfather type things. If someone did something wrong in our neighborhood or whatever, my mom would sit back and go, Roger, take care of them. And, dad would go
Right.
out there and take care of business. She was very independent, cussed like a sailor. I
Oh,
learned
no.
my brothers and I, not to be offensive or anything, but my brothers and I we were troublemakers. I mean, we were into stuff all the time, painting the bathroom with brown shoe polish, stabbing each other with letter openers, things like that. And for the probably the first 10 years of our lives, we thought our collective name was "You Little Bastards," because that's what you would call us when we did it. But my mother definitely the strong, sassy, independent, very strong-willed. My mother would, in the middle of the day, tie a rope around her waist, tie it to a bed, climb out the window, and go patch the roof if it needed patched. She just got business done.
Right.
And the other one was her mother, which would be my grandmother, who literally was a saint. And I mean that. She was the most selfless person I knew, family oriented, strong, lived by herself the bulk of her adult life, took care of things, always made sure everyone else was taken care of. And just this truly heart of gold, to use a cliche on that. So
Uh-huh.
Wynonna Earp has always been a mix of my grandmother and my mother. No way about that in my childhood. Wyatt Earp versus the Monsters story.
Right.
And so when it came to the 90s, when I was VP of marketing for all of Image Comics and all the studios, and at the same time I was doing writing for them. At the time, I pitched. I said, "This has come time to pitch this Wyatt Earp thing."
Okay.
Only, in the 90s, everything was different. To do that, I knew that I would have to change things a bit. So I turned it up on its head, and I said, this is the time. I'll just make it a character, a female character that's a descendant of Wyatt Earp that hunts monsters, because monsters, supernatural, things like that, have their own organized crime, just like regular people do. So she's doing everything that you would do as a federal marshal, except it's for the Black Badge Division, which is a covert branch of the U.S. Marshals. And if a werewolf has robbed a bank and him and his vampire friend are on the lam, she's the one that goes after him. If a put-together Frankenstein-type monster, it needs to be put in witness protection program, she takes care of that. So it's all the things a regular marshal does, but with that twist. And that's something I've always done with my writing. I read nothing but nonfiction almost. I read very little fiction, because in nonfiction, I can take that and then tweak it and make my own fiction out of it. Oh, sure. And this was a prime case. So I got to say that two people were very instrumental in making sure that Wynonna Earp got put to print. And that was Ted Adams, who at that point was working for Wildstorm Studios. I'd worked with him at Eclipse and for Todd McFarlane Productions. And he always believed in Wynonna Earp from the get-go. Before I even pitched it, he read everything I had put. He goes, "This, from day one, this would make a good TV series."
Really?
And I don't know what vision he had, but he was always the champion for that. And so we pitched it to Jim Lee. Jim is not only a talented artist, but Jim's always taken care of his people and anybody that works for him, and has always had an open ear, whether you were working in the mailroom or you were his assistant vice president or whatever it may be in the company. He listened to everyone equally. And I pitched this to him, and he goes, "Yeah, I really like this. Let's do this. Let's do it." So he was instrumental in making it happen as well, because even though I'd come from McFarlane Studios, you'd think Todd would do it, but Todd has his Spawn world, and that was where Jim was a little more open, being open-minded on let's create some new stuff. So we did it from there, and as it went from Image and Wildstorm, and then later to IDW, I think that was probably around 2004, where Ted then was the founder and head of CEO. It was always something that needed to be done, and it was it's always been a lot of fun, Bobby. But that's kind of how, going back to sixth grade through the first publishing. It's been published now for over 20 years. Right,
20 years. Wow. Okay, well, I appreciate it, Beau. This has been good. And this is part one of our 4-part interview. So please come back for the next part. We'll see you later. Thank you.